Story 1. The Girl Who Vanished into the Woods. In the quiet, pine-scented hills of New Hampshire, where the winters bite and the summers hum with cicadas, I found myself adrift in my early 20s. My name's Ethan, and back then, I was a man unmoored, fresh off a 2-year relationship that had crumbled like autumn leaves, wandering through life with a vague hunger for purpose. I lived in a modest clapboard house 30 minutes outside Manchester, a city that felt both too big and too small for my restless soul. My days were a blur of odd jobs and late-night drives, but Sundays were sacred, not for me, but for my grandmother, Eleanor. Grandma Ellie was a pillar of faith, her life woven tightly with the threads of her Orthodox church. After my grandfather, a decorated Korean War veteran whose name still drew respectful nods in our tight-knit community, passed away, she leaned harder into her liturgy, attending services with a devotion that seemed to hold her grief at bay. I started joining her, not out of piety, but because I saw the void his death had carved in her. Maybe, too, I was searching for something to anchor my own drifting heart. Her faith was a quiet marvel, unshaken even as she mourned, and she'd speak with serene certainty about Grandpa being reunited with the Lord. I envied that peace, the kind that felt like a rare artifact in a world of chaos. One crisp Sunday, as the congregation milled about after service, I noticed her, a stranger in a sea of familiar faces. She stood near the stained glass windows, her dark curly hair catching the fractured light, her hazel eyes deep and unreadable. In a community where everyone knew everyone, her presence was a jolt. I lingered, pretending to adjust my coat, until the crowd thinned, then approached her with a mix of curiosity and something else. A pull I couldn't name. Her name was Kaylee, and our conversation sparked like flint on steel. She had a quiet charm, laced with a playful evasiveness that intrigued me. When I asked about her life, she'd deflect with a sly grin, saying I'd need to take her out to earn those stories. I laughed, charmed by her wit, and by the time we parted, I had her number scrawled on a scrap of paper, my heart buoyant with possibility. Over the next week, our texts flew back and forth, each message peeling back a layer of her guarded exterior. Her Instagram was sparse, a handful of posts that hinted at a life lived on the fringes. Blurry photos of coffee shops, a dog-eared book, a sunset over unfamiliar hills. She'd recently moved to the area, she said, transferring to a nearby college to escape a fractured home. Her stepfather was a mean drunk, her mother a silent casualty of his rages, and her biological father. She'd only say he was worse, her voice tightening before she changed the subject. I didn't press, sensing the weight of her past, and instead let our banter fill the spaces where her secrets lived. The following Sunday, she was at church again, her presence feeling like a sign. After the service, I asked her out, my pulse quickening as she agreed with a smile that seemed to hold 1,000 untold stories. We planned a simple date, a movie and dinner at a cozy diner in town. The night was perfect, or so I thought. Kaylee was attentive, her laughter easy, her questions probing in a way that made me feel seen. As we lingered over coffee, reluctant to end the evening, I suggested a drive. The idea felt spontaneous, romantic, a chance to stretch the night under the stars. We took my old pickup truck, winding along a 2-lane highway flanked by dense pines, the kind of road that felt like it could lead anywhere. The air was cool, the radio humming softly, and for a moment, life felt like it might finally make sense. Then, without warning, everything changed. Kaylee's voice shifted, spilling out in a rapid, guttural stream. Not English, but something that sounded like French, or maybe something older, stranger. I glanced at her, expecting a joke, but her eyes, they'd rolled back, leaving only the whites, her head trembling as if caught in a storm only she could feel. My stomach lurched. I swerved, tires screeching, nearly clipping the guardrail as panic clawed at my chest. I pulled over, gravel crunching under the tires, and fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. "She's having a seizure or something," I stammered to the operator, my voice cracking. Kaylee was still muttering, her words a chilling cadence, her body rigid. I didn't know whether to touch her or keep my distance, fear and helplessness warring inside me. Then, as abruptly as it began, it stopped. Her head snapped toward me, her eyes normal but wild, her expression one of raw, animalistic terror. Before I could speak, she flung open the door and sprinted into the woods, her figure swallowed by the dark in seconds. I sat frozen, my mind reeling, unable to process what I'd just witnessed. The cops and paramedics arrived, their lights casting eerie shadows across the trees. I told them everything, aware of how insane I sounded. The strange language, her eyes, her flight into the forest. They searched the woods but found nothing, no trace of her. In the days that followed, I looked for her everywhere. Her Instagram vanished, her number was blocked, and when I asked at church, no one remembered seeing her. It was as if she'd never existed. Years later, I've moved away, but the memory of that night lingers like a scar. I drive past those woods sometimes, wondering if Kaylee was real or if I'd brushed against something beyond understanding, a fleeting glimpse of a truth too vast, too unsettling to hold. Story 2: The Desert Shadows. My family's 2012 Volvo was a relic, a stubborn beast that refused to die despite its litany of ailments: soft brakes, a coughing engine, and windshield wipers that gave up the ghost years ago. Living in Nevada, the driest state in the Union, I rarely worried about rain. But that summer, 2 years back, I learned that even the desert can betray you. My name's Lucas, and this is the story of the night I stopped believing in coincidence. I'd always loved the open road, the way it stretched out like a promise of freedom. So when my old college buddy Kelvin invited me to his place a few states over, I didn't hesitate. I packed a bag, tossed it into the Volvo, and set out, relishing the solitude of the desert highways. The drive there was a dream, endless vistas of red rock and sagebrush, the kind of landscape that makes you feel small but alive. I spent a few days with Kelvin, drinking cheap beer and reminiscing about the days when we thought we'd conquer the world. But all good things end, and soon I was back on the road, headed home. The return trip started smoothly, the Volvo chugging along despite its protests. But as I crossed into Nevada, the sky darkened, and what began as a sprinkle turned into a deluge, a rare, ferocious thunderstorm that seemed to mock the desert's reputation. Lightning cracked the horizon, and rain pounded the windshield, blurring the world into a smeared watercolor. With no wipers, I was blind, forced to pull off the highway and park deep in the desert, far enough to avoid a collision with any passing trucks. I figured I'd wait it out, maybe catch a nap, but the storm had other plans. For an hour I sat alone, the rain hammering the roof, not a single car passing by. The isolation crept into my bones, and a nagging unease settled in my gut. I kept glancing out the windows, half expecting to see something in the gloom, though all I saw was the endless expanse of rock and sand. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the desert in a muted twilight, the reality hit me. I might be stuck here all night. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I'd heard stories, tales of strange lights, of wanderers who vanished in the desert's vastness. And now, alone in the dark, they felt all too real. Just as I was about to try for sleep, I saw them. Flashes in the distance. Not lightning, but sharp bursts of white light, darting like fireflies. They weren't random. They were moving, converging, getting closer. My pulse quickened. I told myself it was nothing. Hunters maybe, or kids with flashlights, but the lights kept coming, their erratic dance unnerving. Fear overrode reason, and I made a snap decision. Grabbing my phone, I bolted from the car, the rain soaking me as I sprinted to a nearby rock formation and crouched low, my breath loud in my ears. From my hiding spot, I watched as the lights resolved into 3 figures, each wielding a flashlight, their beams slashing through the dark. They approached my car, moving with a strange, jerky rhythm, like they were drunk or worse. They circled the Volvo, inspecting it, their lights probing the windows. I strained to see their faces, but the darkness hid them. Then, without warning, a gunshot shattered the silence, a single blast fired into the sky. I bit my lip to stifle a gasp, tasting blood, my body screaming to stay still. They lingered, their movements erratic, until I couldn't bear the suspense. I peeked again, only to find the lights gone, the desert swallowed in darkness. My relief was short-lived. The beams reappeared, flickering around my car like a taunt. Trembling, I dialed 911, whispering my situation to the operator, who promised help was coming. Time stretched, each second an eternity, until I saw the faint glow of police lights. The figures froze, then scattered, vanishing into the night as if they'd never been. The officer who arrived was calm, almost too calm, as I recounted the ordeal. He stayed until the storm eased, sparing me a ticket for the Volvo's many violations. But his nonchalance only deepened my unease, as if such occurrences were routine in this stretch of nowhere. I drove home at dawn, the desert stretching endlessly behind me. But I haven't taken a road trip since. The memory of those lights, those figures, haunts me. A reminder that the desert keeps secrets it doesn't share. Story 3. The Town That Wasn't There. My name's Mary, and I've always believed in the magic of road trips, the way they weave memories out of miles, music, and the hum of tires on asphalt. Last spring, my friend Carol and I set out from Florida to New Jersey, fresh from a week of laughter and late nights with college friends in Gainesville. We planned to make the drive an adventure, just the two of us, armed with a playlist of 90s hits and a cooler stuffed with snacks. But what should have been a carefree journey became something else entirely, a descent into a place that felt like a glitch in reality. We decided to drive through the night, trading stories under the stars, the highway unspooling before us like a ribbon. By morning, my back ached from hours in the driver's seat, and Carol was restless, her usual chatter dulled by fatigue. We needed a break, gas, food, a chance to stretch our legs. After passing a string of uninviting exits, we spotted a sign for a lively tourist town just off the interstate. It promised quirky shops and local charm, the kind of place that sounded perfect for a quick stop. I can't recall the name now, though I've tried. It's as if the memory slipped through my fingers like sand. As we exited the highway, a strange hush settled over us. The town was wrong from the start. Not abandoned, but eerily still. The streets were empty, the buildings weathered, their faded signs boasting attractions that felt like relics of a forgotten era. It wasn't the ghostly vibe of a true ghost town, but something subtler, as if the place were holding its breath, watching us. Carol brushed it off, blaming my imagination, but I felt it, a prickling unease like the air itself was charged with secrets. Our first stop was a convenience store, its neon sign flickering weakly. Inside, it was ordinary enough. Fluorescent lights, rows of chips and sodas. Carol, ever the diva, huffed when she couldn't find her favorite energy drink, insisting we try another store. I grabbed a Gatorade and approached the counter, where a woman in her 30s rang me up. She had dark brown hair, a tall frame, and wore suspenders, a quirky detail that stuck with me. We paid and left, crossing the street to another store that looked nearly identical to the first. The moment we stepped inside, my heart stuttered. Behind the counter was the same woman, or her twin, down to the suspenders and the exact shade of her hair. I froze, staring, my mind scrambling for an explanation. Carol didn't notice, too busy scanning the shelves, but I approached the cashier, blurting out, "Do you have a sister working nearby?" She frowned, her eyes narrowing. "No twin, only child," she said, her tone sharp, as if my question offended her. I stammered an apology, but the encounter left me rattled, a sense of déjà vu wrapping around me like a fog. Desperate to prove I wasn't losing it, I dragged Carol back to the first store. But when we arrived, the cashier was different. A short, middle-aged woman with light hair, nothing like the one I'd seen minutes before. Carol, oblivious to the first cashier's appearance, told me I was exhausted, hallucinating from the drive. I knew better. My memory was sharp, the details vivid. Something was wrong with this place, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were trespassing in a world that didn't want us. We needed gas, so we pulled into a nearby station, its lot eerily empty. The small building at the back was dimly lit, and we hurried inside, eager to leave. Carol poked around for her drink, predictably coming up empty, while I paid. We were in there for mere seconds, but when we stepped outside, the world had changed. The once deserted lot was packed. Cars at every pump, more lined up like they'd materialized from thin air. People milled about, their eyes lingering on us with an intensity that made my skin crawl. It was as if the town had woken up, but not for us, for something else, something that saw us as intruders. Carol felt it too, her bravado crumbling as we hurried to our car, the weight of those stairs pressing against us. We peeled out, abandoning our search for food, desperate to find the highway. Back on the road, silence hung heavy between us, broken only when a battered Toyota Sienna with a spiderweb-cracked windshield roared past. Carol cracked a joke about its sorry state, and for a moment, we relaxed. Then 10 minutes later, it happened again. The same van, same crack, same scratches, passing us as if we'd looped back in time. Carol's laughter died, replaced by a frantic chant of, "Oh my God!" her panic mirroring my own. I floored the gas, my hands tight on the wheel, as the GPS revealed another impossibility. An hour had passed since we'd left the gas station, though it felt like minutes. I didn't tell Carol, afraid it would break her. The highway stretched ahead, a lifeline back to reality, and as we crossed state lines, the town's grip loosened. By the time we reached New Jersey, exhausted and shaken, it felt like we'd escaped a dream or a nightmare. I've scoured the internet since, finding whispers of similar experiences. Towns that seem to flicker in and out of existence, where time and faces bend in ways they shouldn't. I don't know what we stumbled into that day, but the memory clings to me. A gut-deep certainty that we brushed against something vast and unknowable. A place that let us go, but never quite forgot us.